best, we're naive, we're ignorant, and at worst, we're just trying to keep our pets, the pets that we look after, we're trying to keep them sick so that we can make more money.
Welcome to the Call the Vet Show, the podcast that helps pet parents understand and optimize the health of their furry family so they can live the full and happy life you want for them. And here's your host, veterinarian Dr. Alex Avery.
Welcome, my champion pet parents, to another episode of the Call the Vet Show. I'm your host, veterinarian Dr. Alex, and if we've not met before, then I'm a vet. I'm in general practice down in New Zealand, and that means for those of you who follow coronavirus news across the world, and let's face it, we've all had enough of that, but it does mean that I'm bringing this to you in lockdown. So we've been incredibly fortunate to escape the ravages of this disease over the last 18 months, but we have had Delta arrive on our shores and we were locked down very quickly. Now, thankfully, that's meant that actually I'm in the South Island and we have had no cases. So we are slowly coming out of lockdown. We are in level 4 at the moment, but as of tomorrow, as I record this, we are going to level 3, and fingers crossed that will only last for a week before we're then at level 2, which for us means that life will be almost as normal, with some limitation on kind of the number of people that can gather in one area and a few other bits and pieces that I'm sure everyone will be pleased to adhere to, given the freedom that we do have. I've been working 4 days on and 4 days off during this lockdown, so we've kept our service and our clinic open as you'd expect, so that we can service our patients and any emergencies that they have come across. We've been limited in not being able to do any routine work, so vaccinations, investigating kind of long-term problems that aren't urgent and can be held off for a couple of weeks. But absolutely, we've done the best we can to make sure that our clients and our patients have got the care that they need. And yeah, I'm just starting my 4-day off stint, and then I'm back at work on Saturday for another 4 days on, and then hopefully we'll be getting back to our normal service. So I hope wherever you are in the world that you're staying safe, you're staying well, and if we can remember what life as normal is like, hopefully we're getting back to that a little bit more as every day, week and month goes by. So yeah, that's kind of my update, if you like. Today, I'm bringing you a bit of a rant. Now, I sat down to record this actually as a video, and to be a short 3, 4, 5 minute video, it ended up being much longer than that because once I got going, I couldn't really stop myself. We covered an awful lot of ground, and I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts and opinions on today's topic, because this is almost the crux of why I started Our Pet's Health and the Call the Vet Show and my YouTube channel and everything else that I do online, is almost because of the very topics and the very reasons and the very problems that I am bringing to you in this episode. So I'd really love to hear your thoughts. As always, at Our Pet's Health is where you can catch me on Instagram. Send me a DM. I love reading those. I love hearing from you. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, although to be honest, I don't really jump on there very much. But if that's your platform of choice, then you'll find me there, and I'd love to hear from you and start a conversation. So let's jump into it.
And now, on with the show.
As pet parents, we all want what's best for our fur children. But what if I told you that expensive bag of premium dog kibble is just as unhealthy as buying your human kids a box of donuts for dinner every night? Sadly, it's true. And to make matters worse, many vets promote kibble-based diets due to not being taught proper nutrition at university and the compensation they receive from selling those products. Knowing this, it's no surprise that dog parents are left confused about what to feed their pups. On one hand, they're being told kibble is bad. On the other hand, uneducated sources slander the concept of raw food with information that is 100% untrue. Here's the good news. Regardless of whether your dog is 5 months old or 15 years, it's not too late to fix their diet and improve their health. And friend, I'll leave the name blank for now, a dog food nutritionist and CEO of Raw Dog Food & Co, has come on my show to give us some important answers. Whew, well, there's a lot to dissect from this email that landed in my inbox the other day, and you'd better believe there's some things that I'm really not happy about. So I subscribe to a whole number of different email newsletters to give me information about what's going on, to subscribe to different experts, to try and keep my kind of finger on the pulse of what's going on out there in the world of dog and cat healthcare, the advice that's being given online, and some of the trends that people are starting to follow. So what you just heard me read was one of those newsletters, and I was really disappointed with a lot of the content, especially given the source of the email. Now, you might think that this video is an anti-raw rant. It's absolutely not. The points that I want to make here are actually how careful we need to be about the expert advice that we're being given. We really need to analyse the source. And I'm going to jump into some of the accusations, some of the misinformation that this short email contains. And there's quite a lot, just to kind of highlight how it can be really confusing to know what's the best thing to do for your pet, especially when it comes to pet food. But this comes across the whole gamut of alternative medicine, of supplementation, of different practices, different experts, kind of all giving their 2 cents into what we should be doing for our pet. We end up having to do a million different things, or feel that we're having to do a million different things, which creates an awful lot of anxiety and second guessing ourselves. So the first thing, as pet parents, we want what's best for our fur children. Now, I've got absolutely no issues with that, as you can imagine. Everybody wants to do the best that we can. And I think that's what we need to remember, is that everyone, no matter what their opinion, is coming from the right place in the majority of cases. There's some absolute charlatans and snake oil sellers out there, but the vast majority of people, they're doing what they feel is best. So it might be that you disagree with that, but a lot of the time, a lot of discussions and conversations, they just become so polarized. It ends up with kind of one side, in this case, the anti-raw brigade, if you like, and on the other side, the pro-raw feeders. They basically just shout at each other, hurl insults, and it doesn't do anybody any favors. We need to remember we all want what's best for our pets. So let's move on to the next point. But what if I told you that expensive bag of premium dog kibble is just as unhealthy as buying your human kids a box of donuts for dinner every night? Now, that's a pretty strong accusation or analysis of kibble as a whole. Now, premium doesn't mean anything. It's not a protected term. I've covered that in other videos, and I'll leave links to those in the description. But we cannot bulk kibble as one sole category. So there's a whole range of different kibble. We've got at the bargain basement end, kibbles that are just formulated based on the cheapest ingredients that are available in the market at that time. The formulation changes, even though the bag stays the same, because they get away with that, with kind of including all kinds of different ingredients on that ingredients list, and it's slick marketing that sells it and maybe makes us think that it's better than it actually is. But then at the other end, we've got some amazing companies that put a huge amount of research. They really are at the cutting edge of kind of nutritional scientists. They're run by people with years and years of experience and years of training to achieve the qualifications that they have. And that's something that we'll come on to in a little bit as well. So to compare, it's like comparing night and day with kibble as a whole. So the accusation that kibble and all kibble is like feeding your kid a box of donuts, I would absolutely refute. The vast majority of my patients are on kibble as part or the majority of their diet. I've certainly got plenty of people who are raw feeders as well, and absolutely we see the vast majority of kibble eating dogs and cats living to incredibly long ages compared to what we're used to. So that simply doesn't fit with the fact that we're feeding donuts to them every day and nothing but donuts. But of course, I'm a vet. I'm not trained properly, and I have got financial stakes in it. At least that's what the next little bit says. So sadly, it's true. And to make matters worse, many vets promote kibble-based diets due to not being taught proper nutrition at university and the compensation they receive from selling those products. So vets are ignorant of nutrition, and we are simply driven by financial gain. That is what that kind of sentence says in a nutshell. Well, there's a couple of things here. One, yes, a lot of the nutrition is sponsored by the big pet food companies, Hills and Royal Canin. Is that a problem? Yes, it's not an ideal situation. But does that mean that the science is wrong? No, not necessarily. But it does mean that our education is absolutely skewed to a commercial cooked diet. And of those, kibble makes up the majority. Now, all of these pet food companies, they all have wet food, or the vast majority of diets are also available in a wet food. The problem is that does end up being more expensive to feed your pet. And so most people will choose kibble. So I think we can bulk the kind of cooked commercial diets into one category here. So yes, there is a skew towards that in the education that vets receive. But here's a couple of things. We're at vet school for 5 years. We're taught nutrition kind of throughout that time. We're taught the principles of digestion, the biochemistry that gets involved, the physiology, the pharmacology of the body, completely separately to our clinical skills. And those preclinical years where we're learning the pure science have absolutely nothing to do with the big pet food companies. So we are absolutely learning how the body functions, the chemical processes that take place, and the requirements that our pets have. It's only when it comes to the diet formulation and the feeding component that those big pet food companies are involved. So to say that vets don't have an understanding of nutrition and the needs of our pets is fundamentally wrong. But also, here's the kicker. It's not like vets stop learning as soon as they come out of university. So I've been a vet for 15 years. If I knew nothing more than when I came out of university, if I learnt nothing, I really wouldn't be where I am today. We are developing all the time. Vets have an absolute passion and a thirst for learning. It's really what gets us through that really grueling degree. But that continues. We also have a requirement to maintain our knowledge, to stay up to date. And as part of our registration, certainly in the UK, in New Zealand, where I am now, and in the US, we have race-approved courses, which are things that we have to do to maintain our license to practice. So we're absolutely learning all the time. So it's really quite ridiculous to suggest that vets, because they are not taught about other things, raw feeding, for example, alternative therapies at university, or if we are taught them, they are only just about touched on very briefly. It's ridiculous to say that we're not able to learn that as we go on with our careers. And then that next accusation that we are only making those recommendations because of the compensation that we receive. Yes, we sell dog food at the vet clinic. Yes, we make a profit through selling that. That's how everything works. When you sell something, the person who sells it makes a profit. That's any shop, any service that you can possibly think of, apart from charities where they'll maybe just be covering the cost. But even then, they're probably going to be making a little bit of a profit to pay for the electricity that powers the lights, their rent, all that kind of thing. But hang on a minute, couldn't vets also be selling the commercial raw food that's available and also be making a profit from that? So if they were purely profit driven, then actually let's jump on some of these fads. Now, I'm not saying that raw feeding is a fad, but there's lots of different things out there. Let's take advantage of that, and let's mark things up to a ridiculously huge degree, which certainly some supplements are that are available online. Yeah, no, we don't. We sell that particular food out of the whole range of different foods that we could sell, because by and large, we believe that for the majority of pets, that is the most appropriate food for them to be fed on. There's all kinds of risks and benefits that we need to think about when it comes to feeding our pet. I've got a huge ebook that you can download for free, and I'll leave that down in the description below if you're interested in that, which talks about all of these risks and benefits. But the suggestion that we are driven purely by profit in our decision to stock, sell, and recommend these diets is just absolutely ridiculous. And that is definitely one that I do find very insulting. And it's an easy, accusation to throw out there. Vets are greedy, money hungry, and unfortunately, a lot of so-called experts throw that one out there because vets just we've heard it all before, and we tend to just ignore them, shrug our shoulders and move on with trying to do the excellent work that the vast majority of vets do every single day to try and help keep your pet as healthy as possible. Okay, so let's move on. So knowing this, it's no surprise that dog parents are left confused about what to feed their pups. On one hand, they're being told kibble is bad. On the other, uneducated sources slander the concept of raw food with information that's 100% untrue. So slander is an interesting word because that email previously has just slandered vets for being completely unknowledgeable, completely profit driven and not knowing what they're talking about. So in my mind, that's actually slander. And a lot of the information that people are warning about with raw food is completely true. Now, whether the risks that we warn about are relevant to you, that's something that you need to make up your own mind. I don't try and convince my clients that are raw feeding that they're doing absolutely the wrong thing and they must feed a commercial diet, be that kibble or a wet food. I just like to make sure that they know that there are some risks there, especially if there's young children in the house. If there's an immunocompromised person, then there's a risk of infections that can be really serious. There is potentially an increased risk in superbugs in the environment, so multi-resistant bacteria that are not going to respond to certain different types of antibiotics. It may be that your pet is at risk from some of the feeding practices that we do through nutritional deficiencies, through if we're feeding bones, the risks that they can pose to dental health with obstructions and all kinds of things. Now, the number of dogs that suffer those problems is very, very small, and the number of people that suffer the risks to us from feeding raw food is very, very small. But if you don't know about that, how can you make an informed decision? These are often risks that people will gloss over if they're really pro-raw, or they won't mention at all. So, but if you know all that and you think that it's the most appropriate diet to feed your dog, good for you. I have no problem with that. My big passion is actually just giving good information that's unbiased as much as it can be. We all come with our certain, angles on things, and to a certain extent that's unavoidable. A lot of people will throw accusations at me, and there's been lots of comments that kind of ignore the fact that I have said that multiple times. It may be that for some dogs, it may be that for a lot of dogs, that a home prepared, raw or lightly cooked meal is more healthy so long as it is done properly. But we just also don't have that information. There are no good studies that show that raw food is better than kibble, or conversely that kibble is better than raw. It may also be that you're worried about a lot of the recalls that happen for these commercial diets, and there are recalls, and some of the big companies have had recalls as well, although by and large it's more boutique brands, kind of small, kind of mum and pup dog food brands that don't have the quality control measures in place that have these recalls. And the bigger brands are normally a little bit better, or normally a lot better, but they're not immune from recalls. Anyone who says that there's no risk in feeding a commercial diet is absolutely not telling the truth, and cooked commercial diet is not telling the truth. Equally, we can't lump all of these diets together. So we've already spoken about how all the kibbles can't be lumped together. Equally, all the raw food can't be lumped together, because there are some, excellently balanced raw commercial diets out there, freeze-dried commercial diets out there that are much, much safer from a point of view of bacterial contamination, and they are proven to be completely balanced, which is another problem that can happen if we are making a home-prepared diet. So we can't lump all these diets together. But the supposed slander with a lot of the anti-raw messages being 100% untrue is absolutely not accurate at all. It's often the other way around. But there's good news, and here's the good news. Regardless of whether your dog is 5 months old or 15 years, it's not too late to fix their diet and improve their health. Raw feeding for young puppies, that is something that I don't agree with, and I wouldn't recommend unless you're feeding a specific balanced commercial raw food that is specifically designed for puppies. Now, I'll have to say, what's available in your part of the world may very well be different from what's available in mine. But in my parts of the world, those diets aren't really readily available. And also I do worry about the fact that the immune system is not completely functioning in some of these younger dogs. And then if there is a significant contamination with, E. coli, Salmonella, Campylobacter, whatever it is, your puppy is going to be more at risk. So I'm not a big fan of raw feeding in young puppies, kind of regardless. But also if your dog's 15 years old and has been eating kibble, the chances are, they're probably pretty healthy and their diet's not causing any problems because they're 15 years old. We don't have to go back too far to a time when, a Labrador, a bigger dog, 10, 11, 12 years was, that was their life expectancy. That was the top end of their life expectancy. And our smaller dogs, our Jack Russells, that kind of thing were, they were maybe getting to 14, 15 at a push. Now we've got Labradors that are living to 15, 16. We've got Jack Russells, smaller breed dogs living to 17, 18, 19, even 20. If your dog's got to 15 years and they're on kibble, then really it's not causing them any problem. So that's that. But, person, I'm not going to mention their name because I don't have anything particular against them. I didn't listen to the podcast episode that this was advertising, so I'm not sure what exact message she was saying, but she is a dog food nutritionist and CEO of Raw Dog Food & Co. So, well, you can probably Google that if you want, but here's the thing. So she's a dog food nutritionist. Well, is she? I did a little bit of digging, and as far as I could tell, she is a certified raw dog food nutritionist. Now, this is an online course from Dogs Naturally, so it's going to be pretty, biased from from that point of view. But it's an online course. You pay money to join the course. There's 9 hours of video training. So only 9 hours. There is then a multi-choice questionnaire that lasts for about 75 questions, I think it was. You get to take it 3 times. If you fail, then you just have to watch the videos again, and then you can retake the course. And then you can call yourself a certified dog nutritionist. Well, it's not a protected term. At least my understanding in that most parts of the world, it's not a protected term. But how does watching 9 hours worth of videos in an online course suddenly make you the leading expert, whereas, those evil vets, don't learn anything and they're never able to learn again? It just doesn't, it just doesn't compute. Here's the next thing though. She's also CEO of a raw dog food company that is a multi-million-dollar company, and that's what she says herself on, in different parts of her online presence. So she's running a multi-million-dollar raw feeding dog food company. She is an expert in dog nutrition after doing a 9-hour online course with a 75 multi-choice questionnaire at the end to become certified. So, how does that compute that then she is not, peddling that pro-raw message for financial gain? The very thing that this email accuses vets of doing. We're only recommending this diet because we are going to be making all this money, which is just completely farcical. Yet this person, who has actually very little formal education, is definitely got a conflict of interest because she has a company that makes multiple millions of dollars selling raw food. And she is promoting raw feeding. Is that not a big conflict of interest? And this is so often the case with alternative medical practitioners or people who have jumped on this holistic bandwagon and they're selling the latest and greatest supplement, the superfood that's bound to make you healthier, your pet healthier, all of your relations healthier simply by you taking it. We just need to be so careful with what we're reading and how we're interpreting these messages, because so much of what we are bombarded with every day is nothing but marketing, positive spins put on things, clever use of words to convince us, to buy whatever it is that is being sold. And it's not just dog food that we're talking about here. Supplements is another huge unrelated industry. I've got another video from the fantastic Hannah Caphorn from Canine Arthritis Management that gives an amazing illustration of some of the cons that are out there in the supplement industry. So I'll leave a link up on the card there about that. we need to be so careful. If someone is asking you for money, if someone is peddling a message, have a look and see what they're selling, because, they likely have a conflict of interest as well. Now, does that make the information wrong? No, it doesn't make it wrong, but we need to bear that in mind. These supposed, saviors of pet health, are very often in the exact same position that they're accusing. Often it's the evil, money-hungry vet. Unfortunately, vets are often put across as, the evil villain. At best, we're naive, we're ignorant, and at worst, we're just trying to keep our pets, the pets that we look after, we're trying to keep them sick so that we can make more money. If you believe that, you can leave this channel because it's not for you, and it's something that, unfortunately, I do get accusations from online. I'm on this platform. I set myself up for these accusations, and to a certain extent that's fine. I've learnt to live with that. I need to do another video, like kind of commenting on some of these ridiculous accusations that get hurled at me, but we'll leave that rant for another day. If you'd like to hear it, drop me a comment down below. We just need to be so careful, and that's what I want. That's what I really want, is I want people to get all this information. I want people to learn about raw feeding, to learn about how to do it properly. If that's really what you want to do, learn how to do it properly. Learn from people who are proper experts, not who have done an online course in an afternoon and are calling themselves a certified dog nutritionist. Board certified veterinary nutritionists, they have gone to university for 5 years to qualify as a veterinarian. They will then do an internship or a residency that is another 2, 3, 4 years worth of training specifically in nutrition. So, why are most of those not recommending raw feeding? Why are they still giving warnings? It's because there's potentially still a lot that we don't know about feeding and which is best for our dog. But, to say that they are ignorant as well and are just driven by money is preposterous. So, the bottom line is just be careful out there. There's a lot of poor information. There's a lot of surface level information. There's a lot of information that's given that is accurate, but is very one-sided and doesn't give a balanced view.
Helping your pet live the happy, healthy life they deserve.
So, what do you reckon? Am I being a bit naive? Have I completely missed the mark? Is there something I'm missing? I'd really love to hear from you. So again, you can find me at Our Pets Health over on Instagram. I'd love to read any insights or input that you've got on this topic, or any stories that you might have about something similar where you've read something or you've bought something that seemed too good to be true maybe and turned out to be too good to be true. So I'd love to hear from you. As always, it helps so much if you can spread the word, if you can share this podcast with a couple of friends, your family members who could get something out of this, who'd be interested in these topics. It allows me to reach more people, reach more pets, and help them live the long and happy life that they deserve. So thank you in advance for sharing that. Also, if you'd like to leave me a review, that helps more than you can imagine with other people discovering this podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening to. And you can find links to that at ourpetshealth.com/review. So thanks in advance for that. I'm looking forward to speaking to you next time. But until then, I'm Dr. Alex. This is the Call the Vet Show, because they're family.
That's it for this episode of the Call the Vet Show. Be sure to visit callthevet.org to join the conversation, access the show notes, and discover our fantastic bonus content. We'll see you next time.